phone rang at the rescue center one afternoon. A worried person called about 4 small kittens running near a busy road. There was no mother cat anywhere around them. The man at the rescue center quickly took his emergency bag with all the supplies he might need and rushed to help right away. Cars were speeding very fast on that dangerous road, so every minute mattered for these tiny lives. When he arrived at the location, he saw the kittens hiding together in some tall grass right by the edge of the road. They were very small and shaking with fear. Their bright blue eyes told him they were still babies, probably only 3 or 4 weeks old. The loud sound of cars rushing past made them cry with terror. The man knew he had to be very careful. He walked slowly and quietly so he would not scare them even more. He got down on his knees to be at their level and spoke in the softest voice he could. The tiny kittens heard his gentle voice and their little ears moved, but they stayed pressed close together because they did not know if this stranger was safe or dangerous. He spent several minutes looking all around the area to see if their mother cat was nearby. Sometimes mother cats leave their babies for short periods to hunt for food. This was very concerning because baby kittens this young cannot survive long without their mother's milk and warmth. Time was running out, and he knew he had to act fast to save their lives. Very carefully and gently, he reached for the kitten. It was incredibly tiny with soft fur and little white feet that looked like tiny socks. The kitten made a scared crying sound when his hands lifted it up, but he spoke softly to calm it down. The man had rescued many animals before, so he knew exactly what to check. He looked at its eyes for any signs of infection, felt its little belly to check for problems, examined its ears for mites or dirt, and made sure there were no cuts or injuries anywhere on its small body. Everything looked okay, which was very good news. He gently placed the frightened kitten into his warm carrier where it would be safe. He repeated this careful process with each of the remaining 3 kittens. Each one got the same gentle health check before being placed safely with its brothers and sisters in the carrier. All 4 kittens looked almost exactly the same, with similar gray and white markings and nearly identical sizes. This told him they were definitely from the same family, all born around the same time. They were dangerously thin, and he could easily see their tiny ribs poking through their soft fur. Right now, the most important thing was getting these 4 innocent lives to safety and giving them the care they desperately needed to survive. Back at the rescue center, the most important work was just beginning. The man carefully carried the container with the 4 precious kittens to his special examination room, where he had all the right equipment and supplies for taking care of baby animals. The first thing he did was set up a proper warming area because keeping them at the right temperature was critical for their survival. He placed a heating pad on its lowest setting and covered it with several layers of soft, clean blankets. This created a warm, comfortable space that would feel similar to snuggling against their mother's warm body. Then one by one, he gently lifted each tiny kitten out of the carrier so he could examine them much more thoroughly than he had been able to do at the roadside. The kittens were about 3 to 4 weeks old. Their eyes were open, but their ears were still folded a little. They were old enough to be away from their mother for short times, but they still needed her milk and care. Each kitten was too thin. He could see their ribs through their fur, which meant they had missed many meals. He used warm, wet cloths to clean each kitten. He wiped their faces and cleaned around their eyes. He looked in their ears for bugs and checked their gums. Pink gums meant they were healthy. Their fur was not too dirty, so they had not been alone for very long. Their eyes looked clear and their noses were wet, which were good signs. Their breathing was normal too, but they were very hungry and needed food right away. The man made special milk for baby kittens. He warmed it up and tested it on his hand to make sure it was not too hot. Then he put the milk in a small syringe. Feeding baby kittens takes time and care. He held the smallest kitten in his hands and put the syringe tip in the side of its mouth. Very slowly, he gave it tiny amounts of milk. The kitten had to swallow each bit before getting more. If he went too fast, the milk could go into the kitten's lungs and make it very sick. The hungry kitten learned fast and wanted more milk. He fed each kitten the same way. Some learned to drink from the syringe faster than others. The biggest kitten was very hungry and tried to suck on his finger when the syringe was empty. This showed it had a good appetite. The smallest kitten needed more help, so he rubbed its throat gently to help it swallow. After feeding them, there was one more important job. Baby kittens cannot go to the bathroom by themselves. Their mother would help them by licking them. The man used a warm, wet cloth to rub their bellies and bottom parts, just like a mother cat would do with her tongue. This helped them pee and poop, which they needed to do to stay healthy. Now that the kittens had food and were clean, he made them a safe place to live. He set up a small pen with high walls so they could not climb out. Inside, he put the heating pad on low heat and covered it with soft blankets. The kittens could move away from the heat if they got too warm. He also put in some soft toys and a small water dish, but the kittens would get most of their water from the milk. The 4 kittens curled up together on the warm blankets. They pressed against each other to stay warm and feel safe. The warm milk in their bellies and the soft bed made them sleepy. Their eyes started to close. The man watched them and felt happy, but also worried. They were safe now, but they still needed a lot of care. For the next few hours, he checked on them often. He made sure they stayed warm because baby kittens cannot control their body temperature. He was glad to see them sleeping peacefully after their scary day. Sometimes they moved around or stretched their little paws, but mostly they just slept. When evening came, it was time to feed them again. He made more milk, fed each kitten with the syringe, and helped them go to the bathroom afterward. This time, all the kittens seemed more interested in the milk. This was a good sign that they were getting used to their new home. The smallest kitten still needed extra help, but drank more milk than before. All through the night, the man got up every few hours to feed the kittens and make sure they were warm and safe. Baby kittens need to eat every 3 to 4 hours, even during the night. This would continue for several weeks until they were big enough to eat real food. By the next morning, the kittens were much more active. Their cries were stronger and they looked around their pen more. They tried to explore their small space. The man was happy to see this because it meant the food and safety were helping them feel better. Over the next few days, the kittens got better and better. Their fur became shiny and their bodies got rounder. Each kitten started to show its own personality. The biggest kitten was brave and curious. It was always the first to check out new toys or sounds. The smallest kitten was still shy but got braver, especially when it was time to eat. Each kitten was becoming its own special cat instead of just a scared stray. The man started to teach them about being around people. He held them gently and let them walk on different surfaces. He played soft sounds so they would get used to different noises. These things would help them become good pets when they found new homes. By the end of the first week, all 4 kittens had gained weight. The smallest one was catching up to the others because it got extra attention. Their eyes were no longer scared, but bright and curious like healthy kittens should be. They started to play with each other, wrestling and jumping around to practice important cat skills. In the second week, the man gave them a small litter box with special safe litter. Even though they were still young, they could start learning to use it. He put them in the box after they ate, and they learned quickly. Some learned faster than others, but all of them made progress. This was another important step in growing up. The man started looking for people who wanted to adopt the kittens. He took pictures of them and wrote about each one. He wanted to make sure these kittens would go to homes where people would love them and take good care of them. They would never be abandoned again. The rescue center was very careful about who could adopt animals. They checked homes and visited later to make sure the animals were happy. Many people wanted the kittens when they saw their pictures and heard their story. People were touched by how they were rescued and how well they recovered. The man looked at each application carefully. He wanted families who understood that having a cat is a big responsibility and who knew what it meant to raise young kittens. The rescue center felt quiet without the 4 kittens and their playful sounds. But the man knew there would always be more animals who needed help. There would be more phone calls about animals in danger, and more chances to save lives. He cleaned the pen and put away the supplies, getting ready for the next rescue. What started as a dangerous situation with tiny kittens near a busy road became a story about rescue, recovery, and new beginnings. For the man, this was the best part of his work. He was not just saving lives in that moment, but changing them forever. He was creating happy endings from sad beginnings. As he got ready for the next day, the man thought about the journey of these 4 kittens. They went from being scared and crying to being confident and ready for new families. They showed everything that made animal rescue work worth doing. Each rescue was different and each animal was special, but the main idea was always the same. It was about making a difference, one animal at a time.